Hello everyone, this is William K. Murtaugh, Murt Witness 1, and welcome to the Hump Day Mobile-thon. Now the status today is that Field McConnell is still in jail, while Timothy Charles Homseth and company gallivant around the United States doing who knows what. We don't know if Tim Homseth is home with his companions and where they might be. Those that need to know where Tim is at. Now, today, Broward County finally posted the fact that there was a hearing Monday and that there is going to be a hearing / status hearing on Friday, the 6th of March, like I had previously announced. Broward County usually is not this sloppy or hesitant or whatever you want to call it in getting this information up online, but perhaps they're a little busy and it just took a while to get up there. Or there are some other reasons for it. At any rate, the status is now up there. Now, what's going to be done with the status hearing is basically they're going to get into all the what would normally be called a house cleaning that's done in a trial to kind of get everything prepared for the May 6th court date, or May 7th, I believe. Might be off a day or two. But for the May hearing is the most accurate way to put it. Now, all that's going to be done Friday is they're going to go over what the discovery's going to be, any pleas, deals that might be negotiated between the defense and the prosecution, stuff like that. It's that day that's going to go a long way towards determining how the rest of the trial is going to go in May. And that way everybody's going to know what motions they're going to make, what they're going to try and do as far as putting evidence in for trial, arguing about what evidence they should not be brought in for trial, that sort of thing. So we're off to a start on that. Another thing that seems to be happening is Chris Hallett has announced that he is going to show up at some point. I had originally thought it was going to be Kirk Pendergrass, but apparently since it's more cost effective for the firm, Mr. Hallett is going to make his presence known at the next court hearing. I don't know if he's coming down Friday. It would be kind of useless for him to do so because there's really nothing much going on there. He's not going to be able to do his E-crap thing by showing up. You know, I guess he can save his E-crap for later. But for right now, you know, we're kind of on a coasting period until after March 6th to see if anything comes out. Barring any unusual actions taken in court Friday, there probably isn't going to be anything that amounts to that much. It's likely, again, that he will get a bond reduction of $25,000 and he may be out to spend the weekend at his son's house. Beyond that, if there's a reduction in charges, some kind of plea bargain, which would end this thing quicker than expected, that remains to be seen. If Field McConnell decides to fight this, then we go forward to May. So, as far as what's going to happen, we're just going to have to wait. In the meantime, there are other things taking place. And my theme for today is collateral damage, because there seems to be a possibility that recent events have caused some collateral damage. And that is in the form of a man by the name of William Dunklin, who is running for the Arkansas State Senate primary. Now, it would appear at this point that Mr. Dunklin has lost his bid to get into political office. By a fairly close margin, interestingly enough, about 2 points, maybe 3. And at the moment, I believe that there's going to be a recount to make sure that Mr. Dunklin will have lost his bid to be in the Arkansas Senate, or possibly a miracle will happen and he will have won by a slim margin. This is a fairly rural area down there, over there I should say, and I believe there was slightly over 3,000 votes cast for each candidate, so that wouldn't take very much for Mr. Dunklin to get back in the running. And so that's probably the reason for the recount. But unless somebody screwed up, it would seem that the chances are relatively low that Mr. Dunklin is going to pull the proverbial rabbit out of the hat, and he will have lost. Now, what is not clear is if his loss had anything to do with the conduct of his daughter Sarah, or her impending legal problems over the coming weeks. That's something that remains to be seen. But at the very least, this is causing collateral damage on that. And while we're on the subject of collateral damage, we must remember that the court case that Field McConnell is going through in Florida is not his only problem. Mr. McConnell also has his house being foreclosed upon. The final stages are coming up here rather quick, because it does not appear that Field McConnell has met the terms set down by the court. The taxes may not have been paid on the property. Now, on the other side of the coin, we have the fact that Mr. McConnell has a great big tax debt. As I pointed out yesterday, he owes $141,000 in federal income tax. Tim Holmseth, strangely enough, has put the blame for this on Margaritaville up in Canada, or by extension, Eager Beaver, since Eager Beaver is the mastermind behind the Field report. Now, the money laundering article that Tim Holmseth wrote does not get into the fact that Mr. McConnell didn't pay his taxes to begin with, and that's how he got into trouble. Now, why would Field McConnell divert $141,000 that he did not pay to somebody up in Canada? This is a primary example of how Tim Holmseth is not a journalist, either professionally or amateurly for that matter. Because there is no reason for Field McConnell to be sending funds to Canada to evade taxes. He simply absorbs the money he saved by not paying taxes. Because sending $141,000 to Canada is not creating a loophole. It's just getting rid of the money, which is kind of weird when you think about it. You know, the simple fact of the matter is Field McConnell didn't pay the taxes, spent the money elsewhere, not necessarily with the Children's Crusade or the non-existent Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. Now, Tim Holmseth seems to think that he would be in the clear of this donation business because he did not come on board to the Children's Crusade until a year after it had been created. That is officially. Now, I don't think that his handler woke up one day and said, okay, I'm going to introduce you to Field McConnell, get in the car and let's go. And 12 to 24 hours later, Tim Holmseth was drinking beer with Field McConnell in that bar they hung around with up there in Plum City. I would suspect that there was a period of time, a matter of weeks, possibly months, that there was a phase-in of introduction where Field McConnell was reading what Tim Holmseth wrote, and Tim Holmseth was reading what Field McConnell wrote, and possibly there was a conference of sorts, or a series of conferences to determine how they were integrate Tim Holmseth into the Field Report, and by extension into the Children's Crusade. And at some point in this discussion, the bright idea of creating the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force was born. Now remember, at the time all this was coming down, that Field McConnell's primary mission, as it were, was this dude ranch in Texas. That they were all set to buy this multi-hundred-million-dollar property owned by an ex-oil baron in Texas. And everything kind of got bottled up when the guy died. And his estate got involved, and they jacked the price up. Or jacked it down, I should say. Thought it went up, but it actually went down. And the property may have been sold as of this date. I haven't kept track of it, and I'll probably check on it just for the heck of it. Not that Field McConnell is going to be able to get his grubby little hands on it, because he hasn't got any money. He hasn't even come close to getting the money for that thing. And he never will. And as an interesting coincidence, as I'm making this video, I am being passed by a prison bus. Probably the same kind of bus that transported Field McConnell. Big old, unmarked, Bluebird school bus. It's kind of funny. So, there is no way in hell that Field McConnell ever intended on building any kind of a dude ranch for veterans and their families. This was simply a vehicle to generate donations, just like the Children's Crusade was a vehicle to generate money. Now, I saw a video today that pointed that out quite clearly on one of the older Children's Crusade pages of how the hyperlink was there with the donation tab, and he even had a big square panel where you fill out your credit card information so that you could give your hard-earned money to the Children's Crusade. So we have this public fund drive going on for the Children's Crusade. And considering the fact that Phil McConnell has right now on his YouTube page that hasn't seen any action for over a week. He has 14,000 or 44,000, excuse me, subscribers. Now, if 40,000 of these people were to pledge $5 a month, that's a pretty big chunk of change per month to be coming into the Children's Crusade. And guess what? There is no record of where all this money's going. There's no record of what's coming in, and there's no record of what's going out and where it's going. It just, the money from the Children's Crusade goes into the Twilight Zone. Goes into a third dimension where, nobody seems to be able to get in there and find out what's going on with all this money. And this is what the person, Agent Margaritaville, is squawking about. Now, there's no telling if Mr. Margaritaville is any better than Phil McConnell or worse than Phil McConnell, but it was his bright idea to create the Children's Crusade. And after Phil McConnell ran with it, Margaritaville turned around and created the Children's Army. And it's basically the same thing. It's just the Canada version of it. Now, it's logical that Margaritaville would want to somehow get involved with Eager Beaver and establish his presence in place of Phil McConnell and probably come out with the Margaritaville report or something along those lines and promote the Children's Army or the Children's Crusade or both, or make something up that consolidates the two of these entities and create a whole new name and monogram and the whole 9 yards. I would imagine it would be in the best interest of those who are running the Children's Crusade to talk to Margaritaville and see if perhaps they can work something out. Because Margaritaville foots the bill. He has that personality that attracts viewers. He has the same format as Phil McConnell, where he's the straight man, and he kind of has the character relief in the individual that was in the one video where they were putting their arms around each other, or what have you. They're kind of a chummy couple there that could duplicate what Phil McConnell was doing on the field report. I would think that it's the logical thing to come down the pike. And the problem for Tim Holmseth is he is being shoved out of it. And thus is probably the reason he is going after Agent Margaritaville. He was probably rejected by Agent Margaritaville. And instead of being asked to join the Children's Army, he is being questioned about his actions when it came to donation drives for the Children's Crusade, and by extension, the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. For I think that Margaritaville understands the damage that Tim Holmseth has done to Phil McConnell. Now, for some strange reason that I have yet to understand, those who are part of the Children's Crusade still haven't woken up to the fact that it was Timothy Charles Holmseth that ruined things for them. That prior to Tim Holmseth showing up, things are going along pretty well. They were able to handle the arrows slung at them by people that didn't like what they were doing or were questioning their motives. They were able to fend these people off. They had a good cash flow, they had good following, everything was going great guns. And then Field McConnell just had to get involved with Timothy Holmseth. And considering that Tim Holmseth was only part of this whole thing for a little over a year, the damage to Field McConnell was quite rapid. And then he met Tim Holmseth, got things going in a matter of less than a year. It all blew up. And now Field McConnell is rotting in jail, pleading for his freedom, while Tim Holmseth is gallivanting all over the United States with at least one woman, possibly two, and there's no telling what is going on behind closed doors. That Tim Holmseth may be enjoying some friendship with benefits out there. It's hard to know. You know, I would be surprised as hell if this is a platonic situation. It's possible, but I doubt it. But at any rate, Tim Holmseth is out there traveling around in his little car. Every once in a blue moon, he gets on his little laptop and makes a live stream on Facebook and writes a conspiracy article or two and goes about his business. Now, I would suspect that sometime today that there will be some kind of article or video where another conspiracy shows up. And I noticed something else that's rather odd. Montegraph has moved on to a different subject. He's now concentrating on the coronavirus. And Randy Q was all too happy to point this out. The thing that I don't understand about all this is that why should she care? She should be happy that Montegraph has left her alone, unless she likes the attention from Montegraph. But, as true Holmseth form, it doesn't matter whether you talk about him or not. If he decides he wants to stalk you, he's going to do it. He did it with me. I left Tim Holmseth alone for almost 2 years. And then suddenly, out of the blue, he started mentioning me in his little articles again. Because that is how Tim Holmseth works. He's got to have something to keep everybody's attention. And so, if you're someone that he feels needs to be stalked, he will stalk you. And then when he gets confronted, he reaches a point where he backs off. And the target backs off. Everything's fine for a little while, and then he starts right back up again. And this is what's going on with Montegraph, at least when it comes to Randy Q. For some reason, Randy Q can't accept the fact that Montegraph has moved on and she's going to go after him. But, you know, it is what it is. You know, more false accusations against Montegraph. People just can't seem to understand that they are better off leaving things alone, because Montegraph could just as easy say, okay, if you want to fight, let's fight, and we'll go after him again. And it will not be a pleasant experience. I don't know what Montegraph is going to do. You know, he's doing his own thing. And, if I had any advice to give these clowns up in Minnesota and Arkansas, I would say leave the guy alone. Accept the present you've been given and go enjoy your sightseeing tour of the United States. That's being paid for by the fools that donate to you and that piggy bank you've got that you're drawing on. Yeah, there are some things that are going to be coming up in the coming weeks. We still haven't heard about anything with the Abzug case yet, other than she seems to be cooperating with federal authorities. Now, I would not mind talking to Miss Dunklin, or Abzug, at some point. I don't think it'd be useful to talk to Dunklin, but if someone could speak to Ms. Abzug, I would let her come on my live stream at some point and just say what she has to say. The way I do my webcasts is I introduce people to the show, and basically I just let them ramble on with as little interruption as I could possibly give them. And then it's up to the people that are in the chat to ask the questions. So my live stream is open that anyone that wants to talk about CPS and what they feel CPS is up to, I won't criticize or anything. I just will let you have the run of the show. You can tell everyone out there in my audience, what few of them there are, what problems you're having with CPS. And those folks that are in my room can ask you questions. Cynthia Abzug wants to call in and give out her story, she's more than welcome to. And that goes for anyone else that was involved with Sarah Dunklin in this crowd, or anyone that feels that they have a gripe against CPS. Because regardless of my point of view about CPS, people have the right to express their grievances. And I will offer my platform to do just that. I'm not out to get anybody in the gotchas or any of that. And I'm not going to sit there and go off on a tangent like Northwest Liberty View News does. That's not how I handle my show. I simply let people say their piece. I may ask a question or two, but generally the people are free to say what they need to say, and in a manner that they want to say it in. So that invitation is out there. But we're getting to the point where things are starting to go idle to a degree. We're in a waiting game. We're waiting for Field McConnell's final disposition here in a month or so, depending on how things go today. Not today, Friday, we'll have an idea of where we are going case-wise. And because of the nature of this hearing, I will not be going down, because these things generally don't have a lot going for it that would necessitate me going that distance. I'm saving my resources for May and for anything that might happen in between. I will be discussing the different issues of the day as we go forward. And as far as Mr. Margaritaville, I still have the invitation that he can contact me by email if he wishes to do so. I do have problems talking to people on the phone because my Fridays and Saturdays are extremely limited as to what I am able to do. And because of that limitation, I generally do not take phone calls. I'm usually conducting the business that is outside of these live streams and daily murdathons or mobile-thons, and so I'm not in a position to take phone calls. Voicemails, fine. You know, if you want to call and leave me a voicemail, I will usually listen to my voicemails. But I don't like to get involved with telephone calls on Fridays and Saturdays, and which are my free days to some extent, and during the week from Sunday through Thursday, it's just as bad. And I'm trying to get as much business wrapped up as I can before May so that I can be free to adjust for any business with the court. If everything down there takes more than one day, I want to be prepared for it. Although the thing is being held on a Friday, so it's a day when I'm going to be able to work things out. But May is, you know, like I said, for May, it's something that I can work with. And if something important comes up regarding the McConnell case prior to May, I should be in a position to go down to Fort Lauderdale if it is necessary. Oh, another thing, now that came popping into my head, is the very dramatic death threat letter that was alleged to have been sent to Kathy seems to have gone poof. There hadn't been a single word about it. Nobody is expressing a continuing outrage about it. Kathy hasn't said a word about it since the day it happened. I think the last thing I heard about this letter was that they called the FBI. And with what checking I've been able to do, the FBI hasn't heard a damn thing from anybody. You know, I called the district where this woman's supposed to be at, and they have no word of it. And I called a couple of other pertinent districts with the FBI. They haven't heard anything about it. The RCMP hasn't heard a thing about it. So, you know, I don't know what instructions she was given by the FBI, but it doesn't appear they're very interested in this threat. So I just think the whole Kathy Miracle thing, or Michael thing, excuse me, I don't know why I keep calling her Miracle, she's no miracle. The whole Kathy Michael thing just went poof. You know, it suddenly and abruptly came to a screeching halt, and nobody's talking about it anymore. You know, I thought it was kind of curious, considering that there was a cat fight going on between Randy Q and Kathy over something to do with Tim Holmseth. You know, when he suddenly vanished and nobody heard from him for quite a while. You know, so apparently they mended their fences there. At least to the point where this thing with the letter suddenly came out of the blue and just as suddenly vanished. So there, at the moment, nobody's creating anything too dramatic for people to pay attention to. They're going on with the clues that are being given out that don't amount to a hill of beans. And, you know, just creating stuff out there to keep the faithful in line. And that's mainly it. You know, and it's getting to the point where I may have to cut back on my mobile phones because there really isn't a whole hell of a lot to talk about. You know, there are a few things that come along that I can babble about for the period of time it takes me to get down here. You know, and that has happened in the past where I didn't think I was going to do a mobile-thon. And all of a sudden something comes up that's figured, well, I'll babble on about this subject or that subject. And that's basically what I'm doing today. I'm just babbling. And I'm getting a few critics on my comment section on YouTube, one in particular, who seems to like to call me names and make criticism that really isn't that constructive. It's just insults more than anything. You know, constructive criticism is fine, but when you sit there and start acting like a kindergarten bully and just start calling people names and stuff, that doesn't accomplish a damn thing other than make you look like a bully. You know, and I'm getting an ever-increasing call to ban this character, and it may come to that. Because I just don't understand why people can't act like sensible adults and carry on a debate without having to be insulting about it. You know, I've tried to appease this moron since this whole thing started, and it just doesn't seem to get through their head. Yeah, I went, for the hell of it, to the YouTube channel of this person, and there's nothing there. The person has 13 subscribers and absolutely no content. He's been on YouTube for 3 years, or she, and there's nothing there. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, except that this individual has a resource that they're not utilizing. They're not doing anything with their YouTube channel except going around to other people's channels making these comments. Quite a lot of them are on mine, if not completely on mine. So I don't know what this person does on YouTube other than come over and make a pest out of himself on my channel. But, you know, it is what it is, and I'll deal with it. If the person behaves himself or herself, then they'll be around. But if it gets to a point where I have to deal with this person, they will be booted off the channel. Like I said in my bulletin in the past. Because my channel is not a democracy. If I feel like kicking somebody off for whatever reason, they're going to get kicked off. I have no obligation to allow these people to throw smack at me on my channel. So just bear it in mind. You know, I will take constructive criticism. Emphasis on constructive. You know, if I say something or do something wrong, you know, call me out about it, but let's dispense with the name calling. It doesn't accomplish anything other than make me mad. And when I get mad, I get even. And the way I get even is you will no longer have a voice on my channel unless you go out and create another username. And then once that username comes in and misbehaves, it'll get booted again. So the key is to behave yourself from the beginning or leave. 2 choices. But the rest of you, I do appreciate you showing up, giving your input, be it negative or positive, and we go on day by day discussing whatever comes to mind. And as I get things coming in, I'll tweet about them, or if it's a special situation, I'll put up a special report. They generally will be without audio, because of where I'm at when this information comes up and I make these 1 to 3 minute notifications. And so until then, God bless all of you. Have a good day. This is William K. Murtaugh, Murtaugh in this one. Have a good one.